Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update from Rouse IAS. Hello and welcome to Daily News Simplified, an answer to what, why and how of newspaper analysis from the perspective of UPSC examination. Today we have taken up Delhi edition of The Hindu newspaper dated 16th of January 2021. The articles which we are going to take up today are displayed on the screen. Let us now begin the discussion. So the first article which we have chosen for today's discussion appears on page number 10. Nepal raises Kalapani boundary issue with India. And so again, Nepal has raised the Kalapani boundary dispute with India. We know that Foreign Minister of Nepal, Mr. Pradeep Kumar, is visiting India and he has again raked up this issue. We know that India's relationship with its neighbor form an important part of GS Paper 2 International Relations section. And so in this regard, we have integrated an old video where we have already discussed this issue in great detail. So let us now watch that video. Now it might seem contrary to what you have heard so far because the boundary disputes between India and its neighboring countries have been limited to China and Pakistan, mainly dealing with the matter of Aksai Chin and McMahon Line, which is the border of Arunachal Pradesh. As far as China is concerned, and as far as Pakistan is concerned, the main disputes deal with that of Siachen Glacier, Pak-administered Kashmir, and the dispute related to Sir Creek. But a construction of road has brought the dispute between India and Nepal to the fore. Now, before going into the details, it is important for us to understand why we care so much as to where the boundary is and how much area belongs to which country. Now, you know that in modern times, the countries are being governed on the basis of nation states, and territory is one of the fundamental elements of these nation states because without a territory, an entity cannot be called a state. The notion that a state occupies a definite portion of the earth within which it exercises its exclusive authority, which means that within the areas defined by the Schedule 1 of the Constitution of India, no other authority can exercise overriding powers, is the first and foremost pillar of the formation of a state. And the exercise of such supreme authority by a state over its own territory is known in international law as territorial sovereignty, which is the right of a state to exercise over its own territory the functions of a state. And the state exercises its territorial sovereignty within its boundaries. And hence, defining boundary is very important from the perspective of governance as well as nationhood, and hence leading to a lot of disputes. Now, from the perspective of prelims examination, it is important to keep a very important data in mind, and that is related to ascending or descending order of the boundaries which the neighboring countries share with India. And hence let us know by commenting that what is the order of various neighbors as far as the length of their borders with India is concerned. Now, if you focus on the border which Nepal shares with India, it is formed by two tri-junctions. The one which is in the dispute right now is over here. That is Lipulekh in Kalapani, which is the Nepal's border with our Uttarakhand state. The second is the tri-junction at Jinsang Chuli in Nepal's east, bordering our state Sikkim. So between these two tri-junctions lies the Nepal. And this location has been brought in news because Nepal has strongly objected to the new link road from India to China, which was inaugurated by Defense Minister Rajnath Singh very recently. Now, Nepal claims that the road which India has built through Lipulekh Pass is violation of the territorial sovereignty of Nepal because Nepal thinks that that particular piece of land belongs to it. Now, it's our task to make you understand that from where this confusion in interpretation over boundary comes into play. Now, the western margins of the Nepal, or the border between Nepal and India on the western front, was defined by Treaty of Sogoli signed by Nepal and British East India Company in 1816, which defined the border as Kali River. As you can see in the map, Kali River can be seen flowing, and that is the international border. Now you might ask that if the boundary is so well defined, where is the problem? Now there are many ways to define an international border, and rivers are one of them. But there are two particular problems when we decide that this river is going to be a boundary between these two nations or states. Now, the first problem is that rivers frequently change their path. And as you can see on the screen, this particular river has changed this much course in a matter of 10 to 15 years. And you can imagine that this treaty was signed in 1816, which is about 200 years ago. And now we can say literally that a lot of water has gone under the bridge in 200 years. So obviously once it was decided that Kali River will be international border, then the river itself has changed the course, which might lead to the confusion. And also, I would like you to focus on this particular sketch where you can see a lot of mountains basically denoting Himalayas. You know that in the upper reaches, it is very difficult to mark the exact stream which will finally become the Kali River, because there are a lot of points from where the water is emerging continuously. And hence it becomes very difficult in the upper reaches of the river to demarcate the exact origination point of a river. Now, if this is Nepal and this is India, Nepal would always want to claim this point as the source of Kali River, because if this becomes the source, then this whole territory east of this point will become Nepalese territories. Whereas India would always want to claim this point as a source of Kali River to claim the whole territory. So this is the difference of interpretation given in Treaty of Sogali, which is creating problem right now. Now, you should not think that this is a peculiar situation between India and Nepal. This trouble over defining the exact boundary emerges in almost all the countries which have defined river as their international border. Now, why is Lipu Lake Pass and the road constructed here is so important? Now, first and foremost, you know that this is the Kailash or the Kailash Mansarovar, which is a very auspicious religious place for Hindus. And right now, they have to traverse a very long distance, passing through Sikkim and then traveling back to Kailash Mansarovar. Now, opening up of this road through Lipu Lake Pass will shorten this distance drastically. And apart from that, control over Lipu Lake allows Indian military to keep a direct watch on the movement of Chinese military across the border in Tibet. So these are the two reasons why the possession of Lipu Lake is extremely important from Indian perspective. Let's now move on to the next news. Now this next news of discussion appears on page number 6 in the form of column. Double ignominy. Ignominy means public shame or disgrace. So Mr. Donald Trump has become the only American president to be impeached twice. And so in this regard, it becomes important for us to understand as to how and what are the procedures which result into impeachment in United States, and how is it different from the impeachment of the President of India. And so in this regard, Naved sir has already had this discussion in our Daily News Simplified video, which you are going to watch. This particular discussion is going to be very vital because there is a line in GS paper 2 which says comparison of Indian constitution with those of other countries. And so an important aspect of constitution is also how the head of the state is removed, and so we'll understand that in this discussion.
Next news appears on page number 10 in the article section. It says Trump cards in the impeachment deck. The process to pin down the US president could be politically wasteful for the Democratic Party. Now, this article has tried to explain the political situation with respect to impeachment of US President Donald Trump. However, as per recent reports, it has appeared that the House of Representatives of United States has already impeached Trump. So, in this news analysis, let us understand the entire process of impeachment of Donald Trump as compared to the impeachment process of Indian president. As you can see, this also forms part of GS paper 2, specifically with respect to comparison of Indian constitutional scheme with that of other countries. And in your prelims examination, this topic specifically with respect to impeachment process of the President of India becomes part of Indian polity and governance. Now in India, we have the Lok Sabha as well as the Rajya Sabha. Lok Sabha is the lower house of the Indian Parliament, whereas Rajya Sabha is the upper house of the Indian Parliament. Similarly, in United States, they have the House of Representatives, which is considered the lower house of their parliament, also referred as US Congress, whereas Senate is their upper house. Now, the entire process of impeachment of the President of United States is only restricted in the technical terms to the House of Representatives. Whereas the process of impeachment for the President of India pertains or is a combined process of both lower house as well as that of the upper house. Another important point to be noted is that the impeachment process for the President of United States begins only in House of Representative, that is the lower house, and cannot begin in the Senate. Further, the process of impeachment has to be passed in House of Representative by a simple majority. Whereas, with respect to the President of India, if he has to be impeached, then it must be passed by two-thirds of the total membership of the House in both houses of the Parliament. Further, the impeachment process for the President of United States, as already mentioned, is restricted only to the House of Representatives, and the moment it gets to the Senate, then it becomes a removal process. So, after understanding some of these basic differences with respect to impeachment process of President of India on one side as well as President of United States on the other hand, let us go through this entire process of impeachment for the President of United States and also specifically with respect to Donald Trump. So the US House of Representatives, that is the lower house, has impeached President Donald Trump on charges of abuse of power as well as for the charge of obstruction to Congress. And this abuse of power pertains mainly to his phone call to the newly elected president of Ukraine. So let us go through this question answer format in order to understand the impeachment process of United States President and also why Donald Trump was impeached. It says that why impeachment? It mentions that founders of the United States Constitution feared that the presidents of the US could have abused their powers. So, in order to shield their entire democratic process, they included this concept of impeachment of the President of the United States in the constitution process itself. So, it says that the founders of US feared presidents abusing their powers, so they included in the constitution a process for removing the president from his office. The next question is, what is the criteria for the impeachment? It says that the president under the constitution of US can be removed from office for treason, bribery or other high crimes and misdemeanors. Further, it says that who defines these different terms on the basis of which the president of US is impeached. It says that high crimes and misdemeanors has historically encompassed corruption as well as abuse of public trust, and this is as opposed to certain violations of different criminal laws. However, overall, what constitutes a crime with respect to impeachment of a president has to be determined by the majority of the House of Representatives, and whatever the House of Representatives of United States considers as a reason sufficient for impeachment can be said to be a given reason for impeachment. So in this case of Donald Trump, the reasons were abuse of power of the office of president and also obstruction of the working of Congress. So the question is that what was the criteria of impeachment of Donald Trump? It says that his impeachment process basically began from July 25 phone call with Ukraine's newly elected president Volodymyr Zelensky, as he asked Zelensky for a favor. Now it is important to understand this particular favor. Now Donald Trump wanted to discredit his political opposition, mainly the Democrats, as Trump wanted Zelensky to carry out an investigative process whereby he could have accused the Democrats of bifurcating Ukraine. And Donald Trump tried to bargain this favor from the newly elected president of Ukraine on the basis of aggression from Russian president on Ukraine. So Democrats argued with respect to impeachment process in the House of Representatives that Donald Trump misused the office of president against his political opposition in United States and effectively tried to discredit US citizens. So it says that Trump wanted the Ukraine government to investigate Democrats in the 2016 election and his potential 2020 rival Joe Biden. So effectively, Trump also wanted to malign Joe Biden, who was his rival for the upcoming presidential election of 2020. And all this was asked as a favor to United States in return for military aid and some money. So all these were charges put on Donald Trump with respect to his impeachment. Now, with respect to impeachment, you must understand that the process of impeachment ends in the House of Representatives. However, if the president has to be removed, then such a proposal must be passed in the Senate by a majority of two-thirds present and voting. So, as of now, the Republicans have a majority in the Senate, so it's very unlikely that President Donald Trump will be overall removed from his office of president. However, on a technical ground, he stands impeached with respect to House of Representatives. So, it highlights that no president has ever been removed as a direct result of impeachment. So effectively, as per the polity of United States, there is a dichotomy between removal and impeachment process. So with respect to this impeachment process, Andrew Johnson in 1868 and Bill Clinton in 1998 were impeached by the House of Representatives. However, they were not removed by the Senate. That is, they were not convicted by the Senate and hence they were not removed from the office of president. However, with respect to Richard Nixon, he resigned before he could be removed from the president's office. So again the question is that how does the process of impeachment works in United States? It says that the impeachment process begins in the House of Representatives, that is the lower house. It further debates and votes on whether to bring charges against the president via approval of an impeachment resolution. And this is done through a simple majority. Further, once the resolution of impeachment of the president is passed by House of Representatives, then a trial is held in the Senate, where the members who have passed the impeachment process or impeachment resolution by simple majority becomes the prosecutors, the senators acts as the jurors, and the entire proceeding is presided over by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of United States. So members of House of Representative becomes or acts as the prosecutors, the members of Senate acts as the jurors, and the presiding officer is the Chief Justice of Supreme Court of United States. Now this is a different process with respect to impeachment of Indian President, as the Chief Justice of India is nowhere involved in the entire process of impeachment. Now to convict and remove a president, the Senate must pass this resolution by two-thirds majority. So considering all these aspects, it is very unlikely that President Donald Trump will be removed in the Senate, as in the Senate, the Democrats do not have two-thirds majority which is required to remove President Donald Trump. So in this entire event, it is unlikely that the Senate will pass this resolution by two-thirds majority to remove Donald Trump from his office. However, even if Donald Trump is to be removed in Senate, then as per law of United States, the Vice President of US, Mike Pence, would become the President for the remainder of Trump's term, which ends on 28 January 2021. So after understanding this entire process, let us go through the process of impeachment of Indian President prescribed under Article 61 as well as 62 of the Indian Constitution. And then we'll try to highlight the basic difference with respect to impeachment process of Indian President and that of the US President. So Article 61 talks about procedure for impeachment of the President of India. It says that when a president is to be impeached for violation of the Constitution, the charge shall be preferred by either house of the Parliament. Whereas with respect to United States, the impeachment process is restricted to the House of Representatives. Further, it says that such a resolution for impeachment has to be passed by a majority of not less than two-thirds of the total membership of the House. Whereas with respect to House of Representatives, it was by simple majority in United States. Another important aspect is that suppose if a charge to impeach the president has been initiated in Lok Sabha, then the investigation shall be carried on by Raj Sabha and vice versa. That is, if the resolution to impeach the president has initiated in the Rajya Sabha, then the investigation shall be carried out in Lok Sabha. So it says that when a charge has been so preferred by either house of the parliament, the other house shall investigate the charge or cause the charge to be investigated, and the president shall have the right to appear and to be represented at such investigation. It further mentions that if, as a result of the investigation, a resolution is passed by a majority of not less than two-thirds of the total membership of the House by which charge was investigated or caused to be investigated, then such resolution shall have the effect of removing the President from his office as from the date on which resolution is so passed. So, this was the point which we mentioned, that is, with respect to the President of India, the entire concept of impeachment also involves removal. Whereas in the case of President of United States, the entire process of impeachment in House of Representative need not mean removal from the office of president, and he can be removed or convicted only if the Senate passes the resolution by two-third majority, that is by two-third members present and voting. So this again becomes a significant difference with respect to impeachment process of Indian president and president of United States. Now, another important term to be remembered is that in case a president is impeached, then the new president shall serve for a period of 5 years. However, this is not the case with respect to US. In US, if a president is impeached, then as per law, the vice president becomes the president as per the remainder of the term of the president. So, in case Trump is removed from Senate, then Mike Pence would become the president for the remainder of Trump's term, which ends on 20th January 2021. So overall, these can be said to be the difference with respect to impeachment process of that of President of India on one hand and President of United States on the other hand. So after understanding this process, let us move on to our next news of discussion.
Now, this article on page number 13 reads that mounting pressure on China, the United States of America has blacklisted Xiaomi and CNOOC. And it has added 9 more to the list of Chinese firms that have military links. That means that the investors from the United States of America cannot invest in these Chinese companies. Now, you might be knowing that there are growing tensions between United States of America and China in the current geopolitical scenario. And this has largely been because of the economic rise of China and the way in which China is aggressively pursuing its policies to increase the influence, especially in the Indo-Pacific region, through its Belt Road Initiative. And accordingly, the United States of America has been building up several alliances to counter China, and recently we note that a document was declassified by the United States of America's government regarding its strategy towards India and China. So, in continuance with this policy, the United States of America has also been indulging in a trade war with China, and all these measures that are given in this news article are a part of that trade war that is continuing here. In this background, we have already discussed the trade war in detail between the United States of America and China. Also, what are the pros and cons of a trade war for a particular country or international trade. And finally, we have highlighted what is the stake of India in the trade war that is happening and what India needs to do in this regard. So let us revise from that previous DNS video as to what are the important aspects of a trade war, and accordingly a question was also asked in the year 2018 related to the trade war and its impact on India. So we will go through that question as well. Now, although the steps which are being taken by the US and China to target each other's economies are not important for us from the exam point of view, let us look at a brief overview of what is happening between these two countries. So recently, the United States of America had imposed 15% tariff on the imports, which valued about $300 billion. And the US mainly targeted the products from China for violation of the intellectual property rights of the American companies. And also China was accused of currency manipulations, which is leading to currency wars. Now, as a response to the steps taken by the United States of America, China has announced imposition of tariffs on more than 5,000 products which are imported from US. And these are valued at $75 billion. Also, China has initiated a dispute in the World Trade Organization against United States' unilateral tariff increases. So, in this background, let us look at what is the likely impact of this trade war which is going on between the US and the Chinese economy on the global economy. So, the first impact of such measures of protectionism that are being taken by US and China is the global economic slowdown. And we know that the global economic slowdown adversely impacts the economies of developing countries, which are mainly dependent on exports. Further, the spirit of multilateralism and trust is eroding in solving the global economic disputes, which is reflected in the manner in which the WTO is functioning currently. And in all the negotiations at the World Trade Organization level, United States of America has been repeatedly blocking some of the negotiations which will be helpful for the least developed countries. This is because negotiations at WTO need to be ratified by all the member countries if that provision has to come in force. And USA has been continuously blocking such negotiations, which are especially very useful for least developed countries. Now, another area where the United States of America has been interfering with the WTO is the appointment of members to the appellate body of WTO's dispute resolution mechanism. And this body has become non functional because the USA has been blocking the appointment of new members. Now, you should know here that the members to the appellate body of WTO are appointed based on a consensus among the member countries, and the members are not appointed based on the majority. And that is why, if any country blocks the appointment of a member, that person cannot be appointed to the appellate body. Now, this appellate body of WTO has 7 members, but presently most of them are retiring and new members are not getting appointed. And if this number of members in the appellate body gets lesser than 4, it will become completely non-functional. And United States, because of its protectionist policies, has been blocking the appointment of members to the appellate body of WTO. Now, the issues of WTO have been discussed in the DNS of 1st July 2019, and also there was a question in the mains examination regarding the reforms in WTO that are required, and they were discussed in the DNS of 25th October 2018 in the mains question discussion. So you can go through both these videos to understand the issue at WTO in detail. Now, after this, let us look at some of the pros and cons of trade war. So there are certain benefits for the countries which are indulging in trade war, and also there are negatives for these countries as well as other countries. So the first positive or the pro of the trade war is the protection of domestic companies from unfair competitions. This is because the domestic companies sometimes have to compete with cheaper imports from other countries. And if protectionism takes place and tariffs are imposed on imports from other countries, the domestic companies or the products of these domestic companies will become competitive. And it is likely that these companies will earn more profit, which will in turn be good for the local economy. And for example, United States is indulging in trade war with China and is imposing tariffs on the Chinese imports. This is likely to help the domestic companies of United States of America. Now, as tariffs are imposed on the imports, it is likely that the demand for domestic goods will increase. Now, because of protectionism, outsourcing is not lucrative. And this is because there are high tariffs on imports from other countries, and also there are certain restrictions on trades with other countries. And that is why, as the outsourcing is reduced, it also promotes local job growth. Further, if the country is importing more as compared to its exports, it is likely that there will be trade deficit. So in such a scenario, if protectionism takes place, it is likely that the trade deficit will reduce and there will be improvement in the current account of the country. And such a measure generally punishes the nations which are indulging into unethical trade policies. For example, if other countries are providing subsidy to their exports and flooding the domestic market, such protectionism helps in punishing these countries. However, there are certain negatives of trade wars also, and these include increased costs and induces inflation. This is because sometimes due to the lack of imports of cheaper goods, the prices of domestic products increases. Also, it causes marketplace shortages and it reduces the choice of the customers. Further, it discourages international trade and it can also lead to the slowdown of economic growth, because if more tariffs are imposed on other countries, it is likely that the foreign direct investment in the country can be impacted. And ultimately, it has implications on the diplomatic relations between two countries. So, as we have seen, there are certain positives of the trade war and also there are certain negatives of the trade war. Now, after this, let us look at what is the likely impact of trade war on India and how India can benefit from such a trade war between the major economies of the world. Now, the first impact on India of this trade war is that it provides India the opportunity to emerge as a supplier of the products which are being banned by the United States of America. And if India becomes a major supplier of products to the United States, its competitiveness will also increase globally. And as such, it can have a major boost for India's exports. Another issue is that United States has been blocking the appointment to the appellate body of WTO. However, India has argued for multilateral forums to settle the trade disputes. And in this regard, India has argued for empowering the trade dispute resolution mechanism at WTO. So, India has mainly been in favor of multilateralism. However, the steps which are being taken by the United States of America are opposed to the India's stand on these issues. Further, other impact on the developing countries like India is the risk of capital outflows. And we know that when there is an ongoing trade war in the global economy, the foreign portfolio investment in the developing countries reduces. And if such outflows of capital from the developing countries increases, it has negative impact on the outlook of growth and macroeconomic stability of these developing countries. So in this background, what India needs to do? Now, as we all know that India is not a major exporting nation. Now, as the United States of America is imposing higher tariffs on the import from China, it provides an opportunity to India to emerge as the supplier of those products. However, for that, India needs to prepare well and it should focus on infrastructure development, and such focus should be mainly on export infrastructure, for example, access to electricity, ports, etc. Further, India should focus on coastal economic zones. It should also focus on integrating more closely with the global value chains. Further, as India has been demanding, it should give more focus and attention to the improvement in the global dispute resolution mechanisms of WTO, etc. Further, there is a need for strengthening the Reserve Bank of India so that it can act in response to the capital outflows and also the currency fluctuations. Further, there is a need for promoting ease of doing business, and also India has close ties with countries like US and has closer ties with ASEAN, EU and Russia. Thus, India can emerge as an important player or negotiating player in such a scenario where global countries are indulging into the trade war. So these were few opportunities for India. There are certain perpetual issues on which India and other countries differ, and these are the focus areas where India should pay due attention. So after going through all these points, you can try and answer this question from your mains examination point of view. With this, let's take up the next.
This next article of discussion appears on page number 13 after US, Russia pulls out of Open Skies Treaty. So Russia has announced yesterday that it is going to pull out of the Open Skies Treaty, saying that the pact, which allows unarmed surveillance flights over member countries, had been seriously compromised by the withdrawal of the United States. And so in this regard, it is important for us to understand few basic things and facts about Open Skies Treaty. And so Fazan sir has already discussed this in an earlier DNS, and let's watch that.
There is a news on page number 14. Will exit Open Skies Treaty, announces US. We will see this only from prelims perspective, just the basics of the treaty. Open Skies Treaty was signed in 1992 but came into force only in 2002. Basically, it's a confidence building exercise, and member states to the treaty can conduct short notice, unarmed observatory flights over the other members to the treaty to collect data on military forces and activities. The aircrafts can be equipped with such sensors and devices to be able to identify significant military equipment of other member nations, such as artillery and fighter aircraft and other military equipments. Presently, there are 34 member states to the treaty. Kazakhstan is the 35th, but it has signed but not ratified yet. Among the 34 member nations, you should observe the major ones for the exam. You must remember the P5 members except China are party to the state. United States, United Kingdom, Russia, and France, they are there. Apart from that, you must also remember Germany and Canada are also there. India is not there, China is not there. And by the way, you must also be aware that USA has recently withdrawn from Immediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty as well. With this, we have come to the end of the discussion for today, and now we will take question for the day.